Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. On satellite imagery today, big storm rolling up off the southeast coast there, pulling into just near or west of Yakutat. In fact, the low center a little bit farther back to the west, and it's pulling actually west-northwest and is really weakening as it moves in. And winds diminishing, rain changing to showers, some cases ending. But the next system already spreading moisture from the warm front in across the southern southeast coast. And this one is going to track in a position very similar to the one that just rolled in. It'll be coming back up, so we've got high wind warnings out along portions of the southeast coast, along with storm warnings, which includes Clarence Strait for late tonight and into early tomorrow. Otherwise, a breakout here to the west, Bristol Bay right up the southwest coast, Nunivak Island. Not too bad there for St. Lawrence Island, as this band about ready to lift north of that area. A few breaks over eastern Norton Sound, maybe Unalakleet kind of in the high clouds there, but to the north, and not too bad there on the north slope and even the Arctic coast. We've got a lot of snow showers out here over the Bering Sea from the Pribilofs. Conditions improved considerably from what they were yesterday, and snow showers right down the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, and on out to the west, but winds really not all that much of a factor. Looking at the loop once again, looks like this moisture is starting to stream in toward Nunivak Island, may swing into the southwest coast during the evening hours. Otherwise, this system up here will continue to weaken, and areas of snow will gradually diminish, and the rain and snow showers already starting to just end here along the North Gulf Coast. Again, diminishing winds everywhere there after the stronger winds overnight and into early this morning. And on the chart today, there's that warm front spreading the rain back in across the Queen Charlotte Islands through Dixon Entrance, and that'll be spreading up, or is spreading northward there over the southern areas, improving to the north. A little bit of a weak ridging condition here over the northern areas, and the gusty winds diminishing for the North Gulf Coast, and that surface low actually pulling back to the west, weakening 991 millibars right over the southern Susitna Valley. Just clouds up to the northeast, maybe some areas of light snow there over the mountains over toward the border, but really kind of precipitation free here over much of the interior. A few flurries up there along the Arctic coast, most of this pulling back to the west there with the easterly flow. Isolated showers, Seward Peninsula down across eastern Norton Sound, maybe down to the Kilbrook Mountains. We get in a break right through here, right up across Nunivak Island. All the moisture of this low over the Bering Sea out to the west or to the south, but it looks like some of that will circulate back on into the southwest coast this evening, if it hasn't already. And the snow showers here out over the Aleutians, enhancing around the central areas there with that trough that's swinging eastward. And we'll see tonight kind of just a series of weak troughs, keeping snow showers in across much of the Aleutians, southern Bering Sea and Pribilofs. This one here, increasing the chances of snow along the southwest coast. Maybe a little bit of snow over the northern Kuskokwim Valley, but generally in a swath here from the Alaska Range right up across Norton Sound and the southern Seward Peninsula. So it'll be kind of occasional snow situation there for Nome and White Mountain on out to Wales and Teller, but dry there. Kotzebue Sound, Noatak Valley areas from Kivalina up across the North Slope, looking pretty good. Even the Arctic coast, winds light from the east-northeast, maybe a few flurries there around the central coastal locations, and a ridge out here to the west, drying it out, and then you can see the moisture field with the next system, and they'll be pushing in for tomorrow. This storm moving up, much like the one that just went through, so it'll be kind of a repeat of the last 24 hours here. Coming up, rain heavy at times, high wind warnings out, gusts over 60 miles an hour, mostly over the southern panhandle and then along the coast, and of course storm warnings with that along all of the southeast coast, including probably Dixon Entrance and Clarence Strait, with gales elsewhere. Dry Copper River Basin, as I mentioned, and then for tomorrow, that system lifts northward and weakens right up over Canada there instead of pulling more back to the west as the previous one did. Rain kind of continues here, not as heavy, definitely winds dropping off. They'll be pretty strong here starting the day out tomorrow, but they'll be diminishing throughout the afternoon and really diminishing here down the south coast and across the southern areas. And that's more of a showery condition on the precipitation there. This next system down to the south, again coming northward, not quite as strong, won't develop as the previous two did to the point, and actually this is going to slide off to the northeast Saturday night and weaken into a trough and won't be anywhere near the wind producer that the previous two were. In fact, it'll probably not be much of a wind producer at all and keep most of the rain and moisture down to the south. Otherwise, tomorrow, again tonight, maybe an inch of snow across areas of northern Cook Inlet, Palmer, and those locations, and then for tomorrow, maybe another 1 to 2 inches in areas again. And this is zone kind of dissipating throughout the day, but looks good for the Matanuska Valley, Palmer area, maybe Wasilla, less of a chance back to the west or northwest or even to the north. Just some scattered showers, mostly along the Alaska Range, possibly into the Tanana Valley, but nothing significant. Light winds as well across all of the interior here with dry conditions from the Koyukuk Valley up across the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast. Weak trough could kick off a few snow showers up here over Kotzebue Sound, and kind of a little more area of light snow down across St. Lawrence Island there, but the winds, again, not much of a factor at all with the low center right over the northern Bering Sea. Snow showers at the trough continue to stream eastward here, but just scattered to isolated, really maybe a little concentrated here as that thing swings across Alaska and into the Alaska Peninsula, but nothing serious. And then gale force winds riding in on that next front, pushing in from the northwest Pacific in toward the western Aleutians. Mixed precipitation, could start out as snow and then trending toward rain on the milder southerly winds in advance of the front. And taking a look, second day of the weekend, Sunday, that system moves pretty rapidly and then swings up to the northeast. So we've got a pretty good storm that's going to bring some strong winds, probably gale force winds definitely here into the Pribilof Islands. Snow and blowing snow to start with, mixing out to rain down toward the eastern Aleutians here to the Alaska Peninsula at some point in the day on Sunday, but probably staying in the form of snow there for St. George and St. Paul until the actual front gets a little farther to the north. Then it should switch over to more of a rain, especially at the lower elevations or sea level, which is just about what everything is out there. Otherwise, we've got this system pulling off to the northwest, so we've got the snow and blowing snow coming with it. Lingering snow changing to very light showers in the afternoon for the Yukon Delta coast. Look for southerly winds, 25 to maybe 35 miles an hour in gusts. Could be 40 mile an hour gusts possibly, but nothing heavier, that's for sure, with some blowing snow. And snow right up heaviest here along the southern slopes of the Brooks Range here in the mountains, and not much crossing the mountains there to get on the north slope. Actually, light southerly offshore flow looking pretty good for VFR flying here, and some clearing for much of the Arctic coast as well as the north slope. Eastern interior, dry, light winds, pretty good clearing possible here, Copper River Basin. Probably mostly cloudy in the North Gulf Coast, but there could be a little more clearing than what I'm showing here. High pressure right in over the Copper River Basin, so temperatures falling again, especially overnight, dropping pretty good there with the light winds and clearer skies. And now we just got this trough exiting the panhandle there, so some rain and snow showers with that, probably lingering throughout the day from, say Petersburg on down to definitely the Stewart, probably be mostly in the form of snow over that way toward Hyder. And then the snow showers are Ketchikan. Sunshine in the afternoon here from the northern panhandle from Elfin Cove, Sitka, back to Yakutat. And again, could be a little more sunshine in the afternoon here for the North Gulf Coast, but this trough coming eastward, it's going to keep a chance of snow showers here from Kodiak Island up into Cook Inlet. Keen eye on up to Wasilla, possibly Talkeetna, but again, narrow band and not very heavy at all. Clearing back to the west here, isolated snow showers remaining. So looking at temperatures for today, we've got 40s for the most part here across the panhandle. We had a 39 at Elfin Cove, 48 down at Kawak, 45 Sitka, and 44 up at Skagway. Yakutat 42 this afternoon. Cooler to the west here, mid-30s across the North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound. Middleton Island at 39 and 26 McCarthy, 27 at Gulkana, and Valdez pushed up into the mid-30s. Lower 30s today, a little cooler, thankfully, here for northern Cook Inlet on into the Susitna Valley with 29 at Talkeetna, 37 at Nome. Kodiak, 37 degrees, quite a range up here depending on where the wind was blowing, with Delta at 26 above, otherwise Fairbanks down to 9, -6, Fort Yukon. And the Koyukuk Valley in the teens, 2-7 at Anatuvik, and just a shade on the dark side of 0 there for the North Slope and areas of the Arctic coast. Coolest back here to the west and back into the mid-20s there across the Noatak Valley, Kotzebue Sound, but 18 at Shishmaref, mid-20s Nome, 11 at McGrath, into the 20s right through this area, and then back down into the teens across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. Out west, 25 at Shimian, 24 at St. Paul, the coldest locations, 28 at Cold Bay, near 30 there for both Adak and Atka, and 20s all the way up across Bristol Bay in the Alaska Peninsula. Lows for night, lows tonight, near 0 or above or a little below, such as Northway, Tok, dropping to -4 possibly, and also up over the Yukon Flats. North Slope, 0 to 10 below, milder the Arctic coast. We've got teens out here in the west, 30s, lower 40s for the lows for the Panhandle, 20s in the Aleutians. Tomorrow's highs, lower to mid-30s here for the Aleutian Change, and then coming down to about 18 for St. Lawrence Island. And then we got lower 20s for the highs, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, on up to Nome, White Mountain, Golovin, and then teens over the central interior, 20s south of the Alaska Range, milder along the coast, 40s again for the Panhandle. Flying weather, IFR, right along the Alaska Range tomorrow, and then back to the northwest across the southern Seward Peninsula. Another batch here along the southwest coast there, down to about Togiak, back to just south of St. Lawrence Island tonight, and then lots of IFR with a big storm rolling up across the Panhandle or to the west of the Panhandle. And then for tomorrow afternoon, conditions improve. Again, the storm rolls in, weakens, and from south to north, VFR starts to take over the southern southeast coast. Lingering IFR with the upslope conditions along the coastal mountains, and also with the snow here over northern Cook Inlet, Madanuska Valley, Talkeetna is northward to the Alaska Range. Improving back out here to the west, looking really good over the Bering Sea, and then the IFR with the next storm coming into the Shimia and Attu area. Passes Anatuvik, VFR becoming marginal in the afternoon. That same forecast for Adigan as well. Lake Clark and Merrill, though, VFR. Good for rainy as well. Western Alaska Range looking really good. Windy though, it looks like some moisture might lift on up in the afternoon, so VFR may become marginal. And Isabel looks marginal throughout the day, but Mentasta, they'll be in the VFR zone. And for Tanita, go IFR, may be better, but expect IFR there, and then anything better will be a bonus. Portage, IFR becoming VFR, so improving throughout the day. For that pass, Chilkoot and White though, IFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet with those storms coming south to north, pulls it right up in toward Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, 4,000 to 6,000 feet on down to the south. Surface right up to the North Gulf Coast, coming south of Kodiak Island once again, hugging the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. Icing above about 4,000 feet here. from Unalaska Island up across the Alaska Peninsula. Maybe a batch possible up here over the northwest, but probably nothing more than trace amounts of rime. And then here above about 4,000 feet from the Alaska Range, southeast interior, right on down to the Queen Charlottes. And the jet stream well to the south here, with that low south of the Alaska Peninsula, cutting in now across the Queen Charlottes actually, and then southeast flow across mainland Alaska, maybe up to 60 knots. Westerly flow at 33,000 feet across the southern Bering Sea, 9,000 feet southwest, 20 to 35 knots here along the southwest coast, maybe up to 40 right south of the Cairns Head there, and then light variable winds here on the low pressure center right up the east side. Southerlies 50 knots, especially starting the day out tomorrow, and then coming down throughout the afternoon, and lighter down south, 3,000 feet, same pattern, strong winds to start, diminishing throughout the afternoon. Southwest 30 to 35 in the Gulf of Alaska. Light winds over the eastern interior, picking up to southerly 20 to 30 knots, southwest 40 knots, just north of the Alaska Peninsula there, otherwise 25 to 35. And then lighter variable winds there, St. Lawrence Island, northern Bering Sea with the low center, and then the strong winds coming in out west again with that next storm. Turbulence-wise, look for the turbulence gradually pick up out there, especially late tomorrow afternoon into the evening, and then could be a little bumpy here from eastern Norton Sound areas right down the Yukon, Kuskokwim River valleys to Nunivak Island, of course the bay, and then some mechanical turbulence, the Alaska Peninsula, with more of a west-northwest flow there, Kodiak Island, south central Alaska. I guess the heaviest turbulence, especially tonight and into tomorrow morning, over the northern panhandle tomorrow afternoon, but you can see improving throughout the day, becoming pretty smooth down south. And after hangar flying, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor with the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Thank you to Alaska Public Media for allowing us to bring you hangar flying, and thank you for watching. This evening, we are very happy to have Mike Hodges back on hangar flying. He's here to talk about foreign object debris and how to keep landing sites free from debris. Mike, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
So we've been talking about your latest safety alert, which was published in November. And it covers the ingestion of foreign object debris and how it can bring down a helicopter. So what are some things that pilots can do to control foreign object debris in their landing areas?
Sure. The first thing when you're coming to do your landing is, while you're doing your high and low reconnaissance, is to scan and look for objects that are loose or could become loose. Of course, when you're taking off from that landing site, if the conditions permit, you can do a ground reconnaissance, and while you're doing that ground reconnaissance, you can look for loose objects or objects that could become loose. And then additionally, if you're working with ground crew members, you can train them and keep them aware of this type of hazard so they can sweep landing sites while they're waiting for the helicopter to come in or take off and remove those items that could potentially pose a hazard.
And you mentioned in your safety alert something about a risk management model called Perceive, Process, Perform. Can you explain what this is and how it works to help keep landing sites free?
Sure. The 3P process is basically an aeronautical decision-making model. So you can kind of identify risk, come up with the solutions, and then kind of monitor and implement controls to take care of that hazard. And just kind of using that general 3P model, you can use it with FOD and landing sites, and identifying FOD and do something about it, and removing that hazard from the landing site. So it's just another tool for pilots and ground crew members to utilize in their day-to-day operations.
So for an example, maybe you have a pilot that is doing a reconnaissance and he sees something that might be questionable. He could call down to a ground crew person and have them check it out or remove an item?
Yeah, definitely. Like, for example, if a pilot's coming in to do an external load out in the backwoods somewhere, and they see some trash or loose branches, they can call down to that external load crew member down there and say, hey, just to the north of the landing site, we've got some loose bags or a tarp or whatever it may be. Can you please remove that or secure it? And that's just a member of, it's kind of an example of doing crew communication, if you will, to remove that hazard from the helicopter.
So I'm not sure if crew on the ground can be more of a help or more of a hazard. I suppose it depends if they're trained and if they know what they can do to be helpful. Do they typically receive any kind of training to help helicopter pilots?
It depends on the individual company and their specific operations procedures, if you will. But I think that's definitely a thing that pilots can do, is that they can sit down and discuss this with the ground crew members and explain to them the hazards and things to look for and how these items could affect the tail rotor system, the main rotor system, and just kind of spreading the word so people know about it. Especially with first responders, law enforcement and EMTs that are out supporting helicopter or air ambulance operations, that one thing they can do is help sweep that landing site and secure any loose items that could affect that helicopter that's coming in.
Do you know if they normally receive training or are given any kind of a heads up before they go to respond to a site where a helicopter might be evacuating a medically challenged person?
I believe it varies by different agencies, and of course the operators that fly the helicopters do different training with those ground crew members. The FAA's Aeronautical Information Manual towards the end of the manual, has a large section on helicopter operations, and one of the sections in there actually talks about landing site security and operations. They talk about securing of objects and things of that nature. So that's always a good resource for pilots and ground crew members to utilize with their training.
And you mentioned the AIM. Where are some other places that people can go to find out about helicopters and planning for appropriate landing sites, or how they might be able to help in securing a landing site?
Sure. Well, this safety alert itself is available on our website at www.ntsb.gov. And if you also go to the FAA's website at www.faa.gov, there's a variety of resources on there that talk about, such as the 3P model, for example. There's a couple documents on there that deal with helicopter air ambulance operations. There's a couple documents that deal with planning with helicopters and off-airport operations and things of that nature. So in addition to the AIM, there's a variety of resources out there that folks can use to educate themselves and train others on.
And that information is not strictly for pilots, correct? That can be used by anybody who might have an interest, or if somebody is looking for some reason to go and collect garbage on the side of the road, that might
definitely
be helpful. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mike. And again, congratulations on your safety alert. You've been great with publishing these, and we wish you a lot of success with them and some additional safety alerts in the future.
Thanks. There'll definitely be more to come, so thank you again.
Great. We'll have you back as soon as they're out. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching Hangar Flying. We hope you found it useful, and until next time, fly safely.
Welcome back. Small craft advisories on the south coast, gales in the north, and even stronger starting the morning out here and then coming down. These about midday values in the afternoon, probably losing the gales up here to the north, and roughly about 35 knots on average in a downward trend for Lynn Canal, and small craft advisories on down south. For Sunday, small craft advisories here, got 30-knot winds from the west-northwest along much of the coastline. Up here in the north, they're going 35 knots, bring the gales back in on the extreme coast, but light winds now by comparison for Lynn Canal, and 20-knot winds on down the coastline here. Frederick Sound out of the west, Stevens Passage, probably more of a southerly direction. And then for Prince William Sound, west 20 tomorrow, southwesterlies, Cook Inlet 15 to 20, and 30 to 35 knots, 13 to 16 foot seas out of the west for the North Gulf Coast. Barren Islands, gales out of the west, small craft advisories here, Kodiak Island. And for the Sunday outlook, wind reversal direction, pretty light though, 10 knots out of the northeast for Cook Inlet. Same thing for Prince William Sound. Westerlies at 20 for the North Gulf Coast, but seas keep small craft advisories in. Southwest 30, Barren Islands, Kodiak Island, lighter in Shelikof Strait. Southwest 25 for Kamishak Bay. Bristol Bay, southwest 25. Westerlies here, Sitkinak to Castle Cape. Otherwise, southwest for the peninsula, 25 to 30 knots. On Sunday, there we go, 15 for Bristol Bay. Gales coming back to the Alaska Peninsula, the front approaching from the west, lighter winds on up towards Sitkinak. For the That's where that went. Well, for Saturday, for the North Slope, or the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, east-northeast at 10, gradually increasing here, 25 knots, brisk wind advisories west side, then dropping back down to 15 into the Chukchi Sea. And then Sunday here for the Aleutians, west 20, increasing to 25 knots. Tomorrow, again, gales coming in out here with that next front, and then those progress eastward to the east side of the chain there, 40 to 45 knot winds for the Unalaska Island area to Nikolsky. Small craft advisories behind the front for the AKwx locations. And now for the southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, southwest 25. Small craft advisories on the north side, including St. Lawrence Island, actually brisk wind advisories. And northwest 25, St. Matthew Island, southwest at the same speed for the Pribilofs. And then big increase, southeast 40, 15-foot seas for the Pribilof, south 20 to 25 along the southwest coast, actually right on up across St. Lawrence Island. And now there's tomorrow's forecast here for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, east-northeast at 15. Brisk wind advisories for the central and west side, actually all the way down to the Bering Strait, becoming a little more easterly there south of Point Hope. And then for Sunday, southeast 25 knots right up to Cape Beaufort, and then dropping off to 15, becoming southerly 10 knots from the central coast, and then light and variable as you approach demarcation point. For tonight again, kind of a repeat here of yesterday, another low rolling northward. High wind warnings along the coastal areas, gusts over 60 miles an hour. Storm warnings with possible gusts to 70 knots in some of the marine locations there, with widespread good shot of rain. Lighter precipitation in the North Gulf Coast. Areas of light snow now, that low center pulling northward, weakening, probably carrying a band of light precipitation with it. This system south of St. Lawrence Island, southwest flow keeps a chance of snow along the southwest coast. Snow showers in the Aleutians. Tomorrow that system rolls on up, winds diminish, gradient weakens, rain becomes lighter. The next one here won't be a repeat. It'll actually just drift up to the northeast and dissipate across the southern Panhandle Saturday night and Sunday. Snow showers out west, and the next storm pushing gales into the western Aleutians. Have a great weekend.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
If you're interested in serving on your local Federal Subsistence Regional Advisory Council, the deadline to apply is Friday, February 3rd. Call 1-800-478-1456 for more information.